Photoshop has a number of different tools to help you remove distracting elements, including the Content-Aware Fill and the Patch tool. Now, most of the time, these tools work to get you about 90% of the way there, and then you might still need to do some additional cloning or healing, but at least they've taken care of the majority of work for you. We're going to start by using the Patch tool, and I want to remove this lamp. Of course, removing the lamp would also require me to remove the shadow. So I will click and start dragging a selection around the lamp, and I'm using the Patch tool to do this. Of course, I could use one of the other selection tools. I'll try to be a little bit careful there, and then just close that selection. So I would like Photoshop to try to actually replace the lamp with other areas of the image. And in order to do this, I'll use the Edit menu and then Fill, and I will fill using Content-Aware. When I click OK, Photoshop will analyze the area and try to fill it with like areas from other portions of the image. And in fact, if I use Command D or Control D to deselect, we can see that it's done a very good job. One thing to note, if it doesn't do as good of a job as it did in this image on the first try, you can always refill the area by selecting the Edit menu and then choosing Content-Aware Fill for the contents, because every time you select that, the algorithm or the math actually changes a little bit. So it might be worth it to try it again. And like I said, when you use these tools, my expectation is that they usually get me about 80 to 90% of the way there, but I still will need to do a little retouching myself. All right, let's move over to the bench image. And what I want to show you here is the difference between using the Content-Aware Fill and the Patch tool. Now, I'm going to use the Patch tool to make a selection. The selection is going to be around this bench. And by default, the Patch tool is actually set to patch in this normal mode. But I've noticed that whenever I'm trying to patch along the side of a file, something always goes a little bit odd with the colors. So when I position my cursor inside of this area that's selected and I drag up, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key so that I can strain that so it drags exactly vertical. When I let go, the Patch tool tends to reintroduce color, and in fact, it's bringing in the red from the bench. So I'm going to undo that using Command Z or Control Z on Windows, and I'm going to set the Patch tool to use that same Content-Aware technology that we just used in the Fill menu. Now, when I position my cursor inside of the marching ants, and I hold down the Shift key and I drag up to select from this stucco wall above it, when I release the cursor, we don't get that color being introduced. So I would highly recommend that when you're working, especially if you're working on the edges of your file, that you change the Patch tool to this Content-Aware mode. Again, it does an excellent job in this image, but most images you might still need to go in and use maybe either the healing brush or the spot healing brush in order to just refine some of the edges around your retouching. So there you go, 2 tools to help you get rid of distracting elements in your images.